double stroke, single stroke, and single stroke. So on the double stroke, a couple things you can see that is different is one, on the earlier double stroke, your shutter speed is still the older style. So you have a 1 over 100ths of a second, 1 over 50ths of a second, for example, 1 over 25ths a second. Those are, you know, the older style. Like you will find these in like a Bionic Leica or something like that that has these. And nowadays, you know, we should have 1 over 30, 1 over 60, and 1 over 125. Not 1 over 25, 1 over 50, 1 over 100. I think if somebody doesn't like this, they can be upgraded to the newer style, but don't quote me on it. I think you can. Also, a lot of the Leica M3 double stroke got converted into a single stroke because I feel like I read somewhere that they think the double stroke mechanism is a little bit weaker or something. I don't. You're gonna have to look it up yourself. Something like that, or some people just prefer single stroke. I like double stroke because it's just really fast. You just do like that, and then you're ready to go. Whereas single stroke, the travel, it's a little bit. Let's see. Make sure I don't have film in it. Okay, you have to go all the way here. Whereas double stroke is just like that twice. But you can certainly on the single stroke you can ratchet twice like that too. You know, that's fine. But this, really just like that, boom. The other thing that's really to me, that's really important to me, the change between the last version, or the 1 million serial number, and the original is the rabbit ear lugs. So the double stroke has the rabbit ear lugs. It's fastened to the body with the 2 rivets, I think. So this thing doesn't move. It's really nice. Whereas the newer one, they use the same lug as the all the newer Leicas. It's just one screw that's screwed onto it. But if you use this a lot, like this one is heavily used, right? I got this from Adorama. They're pretty cool customer service, but this thing is really seen its days. Anyways, you can see it's being heavily used to a point where it's already rotating. Also, you notice that the lug, it has also moved the location. Right now, it's more forward on the body. Whereas on the M3 original ones, it's very much closer to center, maybe slightly forward, but center to the body. I don't know. I don't like a little bit too closer to the front, because then the camera, well, I guess your body's here, it doesn't try to rotate. It's really kind of a personal call, but I really like the fact these has a rabbit ears, and that's also evident in the transitional model as well. Some people likes there was a website, somebody wrote it that the best model is the transitional model with what was that, 87,000 serial or something. I don't know, but this one is a transitional. This is a 92,000, so it's a little bit later. The other thing, a big difference, you can see it visually, is the film rewind, unlock, or release. This right here. You see that on the body where this line here, well, it's not a line, but it's really just a depression, how they make the top. This lever is big enough that reaches to this top edge. Same thing with a transitional model, but on the which is the latest one, it's much shorter. And this, I was told, this is the same part that they use for the newer Leicas. Let's see here. Well, at least it's the same size. what I have here is a Leica M6. You can see that it's a much smaller release lever. As you can see that on the M6, they just whitened this area here so that where the top of the release really kind of meets where this line is, which is nice. That's what the original were designed for. But on the last model, clearly there's a big gap. It hasn't become an issue for me. Like if you carry this camera around, where your clothes will turn this because there's a gap here. It really hasn't become an issue, but something worth pointing that out. The other thing that's different is the lens release button is guarded almost all the way around until they cut that off right by the lens, which is interesting. I wonder, like, why can't they move it a little bit over and making sure this button is fully guarded? Why? It just feels like is afterthought or something, that hey, by the way, we put this button here, but we had to clear for the lens, so I'm gonna cut the guard off. Whereas on the latest one, you can see that they're trying to accommodate bigger and faster lenses, that where this button there's more cutoff on the, and also feel like the button is slightly away from the lens mount. You see. There's another feature, well, two other features that I can show you that you won't see it from just looking at the camera like this. That is the two things. Let me open this. One is this little pin that pushes the film take-up spool up. On the double stroke, this thing is a little thicker, whereas on the single stroke or a transitional model or a newer one, it's much smaller. See? There is a big difference. So if you find a double stroke come with this, I mean this interchangeable on both models, then you can have an idea. Okay, so it must be a aftermarket. It's not an aftermarket. I should say somebody replaced it with a newer bottom cover. One of the things that is controversial, that's why Leica changed it, is the original Leica double stroke. The film pressure plate is made out of glass. It's very flat and glass, so they made sure that you won't scratch the film. Whereas the single stroke, the later ones, this just a steel plate, which is fine. All the other film camera you can find are mainly just a steel plate, so it works fine. The reason they do that, I was told, is that with a glass plate on a certain type of film back in the day, that can create a static electricity when you advance the film too fast or something, and that causes the film gets exposed from the static sparks inside of here, that it kind of looks like a lightning. It ruins your film, so they changed that from glass to a metal plate. That's one thing, but I feel like I have never had issue with it, but also that I don't advance the film that fast, and also I shoot one shot at a time, so I would only advance the film before I'm ready to take the picture to keep my film as flat as possible. So this is kind of where all the points I can think of that is different from model to model. Some Leica M3, I was told that they were made in Canada by having a much larger M3 here. But all mine, it seems like it's probably not from Canada. But it is true, the M3 model, it's a slightly bigger font than the serial number, so they all kind of like that. The downside of M3 though is it does not have a hot shoe. You have to have an adapter in the back. They don't really come with it sometimes. This is the cover. You have to get this adapter. Well, this one is stuck in there, but yeah. So, in order for you to use the PC cord, that's a problem. A lot of times these M3s, people drop them or something. Like on this, in this case, the double stroke. You can see that this has been carefully repaired by DAG. They knocked the, because oftentimes, when the camera's falling, it hits here. Worst case, it also hits this corner here. You can see that there's a dent here. It's kind of being pounded out, but still, you can tell a little bit. That's not definitely a damage. Oftentimes, I mean, even a small, even a shortest drop, resulting in the rangefinder going out of calibration. So it's something that highly recommend against dropping the camera, making sure that your camera's secured. Even within the car, a few times I happened to me that I normally carry in my pocket, and then in some pocket it just not that great, so it fall out of the pocket, and then just a little bit from my pocket to the seat or the side of my seat, and it will take the rangefinder out of calibration, which is really, really, really annoying. That's kind of the weak part of rangefinder camera. These rangefinder cameras is that you really have to take good care of that rangefinder, so make sure they're accurate. So that's all I have to say about the Leica M3. I hope you enjoyed this brief comparison, and they're a great camera, very solidly made. If you take good care of it, they will take good care of you. So especially people who really liked using 50mm lens. Oh yeah, one more thing I want to talk about is just real quick. Another thing you can see that is compare between you can tell from the double stroke and single stroke, is that the double stroke, the rangefinder patch is perfectly, it's a large rectangular, whereas the later models like the single strokes, they're very similar to like an M2 where they have notches. So I feel like the rangefinder patch is a slightly smaller, narrower, but they put a little what's the thing called? Like a little bit of a cutout. That's probably maybe a better way to help you with the depth of field. All right, one more thing I want to add. That's another visual difference is on my M3 cameras, the double stroke, I was told it has a complete seal of the eyepiece. I don't know what that means, but whereas on the later model, you can see that the viewing hole or the eyepiece is much bigger compared to the double stroke. That's another difference. All right.